Anyway, let's give a warm audience welcome. In studio tonight, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Well, that was a great exchange with AOC.
Oh, look, it was, she asked if I was willing to engage. I don't think she wanted the answer to be yes. And I will say one of the stunning things for the little socialist from New York, she hadn't said a word in response.
I don't think there is a response. That was too big. People may not know this. Alan Dershowitz has said, and you disagree on a lot of politics, but he has said you were one of the smartest students that he ever taught. You were the #1 debate champion in the country when you went to Harvard Law. I think this may be deep waters for AOC.
And I got to tell you, in college, really, it was very effective at a party with girls to say, hey, I'm a college debater. It really would, that
went over well.
Yeah,
that worked for you?
Yeah, your kids are Division I athletes. Yeah. I was a debater. So, it's similar.
Listen, it's something to be proud of. All right, let's look at 2024.
Yeah.
Okay, DeSantis tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tim Scott got in the race. Trump leading in the polls. Where do you see this going? You've been through this. I was with you all throughout 2015 and 16. Yeah. You went the longest. Yeah. It came down to you versus Donald Trump. How do you see this race?
Look, it's going to be wild and woolly. I will say, do you think it's a bad sign for Joe Biden when Hillary Clinton is saying he's old and corrupt?
I think that was said on purpose, and I think that the Democratic establishment, they don't want Joe.
Yes.
So I'll tweak that a little bit. 6 months ago, I said I didn't think Joe would be the nominee. Mm-hmm. I now think he's likely to be the Democrat nominee because I think the Democrats think Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. And I think the way Democrats think, they think, okay, if Trump's the nominee, they can hide Biden in a basement for 2 years and just run on how much they hate Trump. I think that's their strategy. I think if at any point in the coming months, Democrats suddenly think it's going to be anybody but Trump, I think they'll throw Joe to the curb and try to find someone younger because Joe, at this point, the guy can't tie his shoes without assistance.
No. Well, I would argue he doesn't know today's Tuesday. So, but this is going to be in my mind, it's always about peace and prosperity. Yeah. I think elections, okay, about the future. Can you think of a single thing that he has done that has benefited the American people? Because I can't. And the question, if it's asked properly, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
No, you're not.
Look, I'll frame it even more simply. Is there any aspect of public life that doesn't suck more than it did 4 years ago? But, it really is spectacular. In our entire lives, have we seen a president screw the country up more in 2 years than Joe Biden? Everything is worse. Domestic, economic, foreign policy. It has been... let me ask you a question seriously, Sean. Imagine you
be the host,
down.
I'll be a guest.
All right.
Yeah, I like that.
It's good. All right. Imagine you sat down with the objective, I want to destroy America. What would you do differently than Joe Biden's done the last 2 years?
Nothing. I mean, when you think about this, what bothers me and what frustrates me is all of these problems, to me, were preventable.
Yes.
We had a secure border. We know what an integral part of our economy is related to energy.
Yeah.
We have all these natural resources. We were energy independent. We could be providing Western Europe with all of their energy needs, and we'd be paying down the debt by the trillions over the years.
Yes.
And stop robbing from our children and grandchildren. I am very concerned. China sees Joe's weakness. Russia sees it. Iran sees it. They've now formed what I call a new axis of evil. You see that?
Absolutely. Look, Joe inherited a situation that was potentially phenomenal. And he's our president. I would have liked him to succeed. You take something like the border. He inherited the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. All he had to do was do nothing, continue the same policies, and he could start with something that no president has had prior to that, inheriting the great successes of the Trump administration. He came in and immediately screwed it up.
You have said every state is now a border state.
Yes.
And by the way, if you may not remember, in the middle of the pandemic, if it wasn't for you, because we couldn't get our TV cameras in, there were cages with kids piled on top of kids that were overcrowded in the middle of a pandemic. We're not doing any background checks. We're not seeing if people have radical associations. We weren't even doing health checks. There was no vaccine mandate for illegal immigrants. By the end of this year, it's going to be 7.5 million illegal immigrants just since Joe became president.
So when I went down to the border, this is early on in the Biden administration, they had the Joe Biden cages filled with kids. And at the time, Fox News wanted to embed a cameraman to come in with me. I brought 19 senators with me. We had a big group to see this. And the Biden administration said, no, we're not going to let the Fox cameraman in because the cameraman might have COVID. That was literally their justification. And mind you, there was a massive rate of COVID positivity in the cages. And so, as you noted, I pulled out my cell phone. And I just filmed it and sent it to you, sent it to Fox.
We would not have known had you not sent that video to me.
And there was a little political operative from the Biden administration who was standing in front of me yelling at me. She was sent down from D.C. to stop any photos or videos of what was happening. And she kept yelling, respect these people, respect their dignity. And I said, look, you respect their dignity. You're the one that are locking them up in cages. You're the one that are sending them to be with human traffickers. You're the one that are letting the women be abused and the kids be brutalized. And the Biden administration thrives in darkness. They trust the corrupt corporate media never to report on their disasters. And what you do and a handful of others is just tell the truth.
Let's talk a little bit about the debt ceiling.
Yeah.
There are now 44 senators. If you include Senator Kennedy, I don't think he signed, but he told me that he's standing with the 43 of you. So
that's the least colorful thing John Kennedy's ever said.
That's probably true. He is one of the more humorous guys in the Senate.
I love John. He's a good friend, and
he's funny.
Is genuinely hysterical.
Wickedly
By the way,
funny.
Art, can I tell you my favorite John Kennedyism? No. He said, if Adam and Eve had been from Louisiana, they'd have been Marie and Boudreaux, and they'd have thrown out the apple and eaten the snake.
That's Senator Kennedy. Great job. So we have the debt ceiling. Joe Biden disappeared for 97 days. I argue he made a bet. The bet was Republicans in the House won't get a deal done. Okay, they got it done. By the way, I think a great deal. Go back to 2022 spending levels. Cap the rate of growth to 1% baseline budgeting. Add in some energy measures, which we need desperately. It's scored by the CBO to save $4.8 trillion. The Senate is standing with the House. Okay, I don't think Kevin McCarthy needs to budge.
Look,
and if Biden wants to default, it'll be Biden's default.
Let me praise, I think House Republicans have handled this beautifully. And I can tell you in the Senate, so Senate conservatives, we met every week. We would sit down with House conservatives and we'd say, listen, our role in this battle is to back you up, is to have your backs, is to encourage unity. What we wanted to avoid is any wobbly GOP senators suddenly jumping ship and joining with the administration. We haven't had any. We've seen Republican unity, something that doesn't happen very often. And you're right, Biden was counting on House Republicans not being able to get their act together. And his position of go pound sand, I won't negotiate, I won't talk about it, was so obviously unreasonable that he gave in. I'll give you an amazing stat. 58% of Democrats believe we should have significant spending cuts as part of the debt ceiling. Joe Biden is to the left of his own party, and I think we're going to end up, I hope and believe, with some real positive steps to rein in the lunatic spending that's in Washington.
Let me ask you, let me go back to 2024 for a second. Look, I've been.
Is there an election?
Yeah, there's an election. And by the way, his re-election is critical. We need you in the U.S. Senate. We really do.
And let me say on that front, Chuck Schumer has made my race the #1 target for a Democrat pickup in the country. The last race I was in, they outspent us 3-1. They're going to flood $100 million into Texas. And so I want to take a page out of our friend Lindsey Graham's book and say, please go to tedcruz.org, 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 because we got to stand up to the lunatics.
So in any primary, there's always going to be, at some point, it's going to get contentious.
Yes.
It came down to you and President Trump. You guys kind of remained friendly to a point, then it just happens.
Did it get a little hot?
It got a lot hot. But this race is starting out hot.
Yeah.
Between the president and Governor DeSantis. I wish that would happen later.
Yeah.
If need be. It may not even need to happen. Because the real problem in this country are the left wing.
Yes. Look, you and I are both friends with, we respect President Trump, we respect Ron DeSantis. I think very highly of both of them. When Donald Trump was president, there was no senator who worked more closely with Donald Trump than I did in the U.S. Senate. Ron DeSantis, I think, has done a phenomenal job as governor of Florida. I'm proud of the job he's done as governor of Florida. By the way, the fight with AOC that you started your monologue with, it started with the NAACP idiotically putting a travel warning for going to the state of Florida because they said Florida is unwelcome to African Americans. And AOC chimed in and agreed with it. And I said, look, Florida, African Americans are moving to Florida in massive numbers because it's an oasis of freedom, and your party has a terrible, terrible record on race.
We're going to follow your race. We're going to support you in your race. We love having you. The only bad decision you made is leaving Texas to come here. But everything else you're doing is great. Senator, great to see you.
Thank you, John.